Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Yoga in My School podcast. My name is Donna Freeman. I am the founder of Yoga in My School and the host of the podcast. It is a pleasure to have you join us, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast provider. Thank you for being here. This episode has come out about because I was looking at other people who produce kids podcasts that are about yoga or mindfulness or that type of thing. I like to keep kind of a pulse on who's out there and doing fun things. And I came across the Peace Out podcast and I listened to a few episodes and I went, oh, she's so clever. Oh my goodness, this is fabulous. So I sent our guest today a message and she said, I'd love to be on your podcast. And so here we are, two podcast hosts going to chat about mindfulness and all of its benefits and all those kind of things. And really, I want to encourage you to go, if you haven't yet, to go check out the Peace Out podcast. That's the whole point of our conversation today. Go check out the work that Chanel is doing. But Chanel Tsang, thank you so much for being here. I'm excited.
Thank you so much, Don. I'm so excited to be here. And as I shared when we were emailing you, I've been following you on social media for quite a while. So I was so surprised and honored that you contacted me about this. So I'm happy to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And well, I'm like, oh, she does mindfulness and she's Canadian. Oh my goodness, she's a soul sister.
Right, check boxes. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So tell our Yoga in My School community a little bit about yourself, especially if they're not familiar with your wonderful podcast.
Yeah, of course. Well, I started my career as a Montessori teacher. I taught for a few years in elementary classrooms, but then I took some time off when I had my first child, a daughter. And during that time, I got hired. I was attending these family support programs. They're called early on centers now, and I really loved it. So if they're not familiar with it, I'm not sure if you have something similar where you're at. But there are programs that are not just for the child, but for the adult as well. So you attend together and there's early learning for the children, but then there are support programs like parenting workshops and those types of programs for the parents and the caregivers. So I got hired on to these programs and I loved it. I sort of felt like I found my passion. I loved working in the community, working with young children. They're all under the age of 6, so babies and toddlers and their caregivers. And then just from there, I ended up now I'm at U of T, so University of Toronto. I'm working at a research center that's focused on child development and mental health there. And I've really been grateful. I've been able to sort of still work in the community. We work with a lot of the same people I worked with before. So it's kind of nice to kind of learn more about the research side of things I was interested in, the social emotional development, and then also kind of bring up all the community members and the community partners that I worked with before. So that's sort of my background in a nutshell.
Fantastic. So are you doing your master's degree then? What are you doing at the University of Toronto?
Oh, I'm working there. I'm
Fantastic.
Actually
what are you doing?
I'm doing my master's actually. So I work at a research center. And again, it's focused on child development, mental health. So what I do there is I sort of help manage the administration and also the community partnerships for the different research projects.
Cool. Very cool.
It's really fun. It's fun and it's great. And you meet great people who are so passionate about what they're doing and studying. So that's kind of what's inspired me to keep learning myself.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Every now and again, the people who are doing research projects will reach out to me and say, hey, what do you know about, kids yoga in schools or yoga for kids with autism or mindfulness with preschoolers or things like that. Every now and then I'll get a request for information from, it's often students who are doing a research project and they're like, who else is doing this stuff and who's been in the community for a while. So it's always neat to see that circling around and know that the research is continuing to grow in this field.
Exactly. That there's so much more interest in it and very validating too, it's sort of to read that the studies and see how much things that we've kind of known for a long time and the science is backing it up now. So that part's exciting as well.
Yeah, exactly. I love the fact that we can back it up with the science. When I first started back in the day, there wasn't a lot of science and it was difficult to find the research articles, whereas now it's quite easy, folks. If you're looking to substantiate a program or anything like that in in your area, there is a lot of research
Mhm.
out now.
Absolutely.
If you don't know where to go find research, one place that if you're listening or watching and you want some more research on whatever topic it is within the kids yoga mindfulness umbrella, I have a Pinterest page, the Yoga in My School Pinterest
Mhm.
page on kids yoga research. Lots of links there. So start there and then you can go down the rabbit hole. All right. So your podcast, the Peace Out podcast,
Mhm.
focuses specifically on mindfulness. So what is it about mindfulness that you felt was so important that you started an entire podcast for it?
Well, it kind of grew out of my work with families in the community. So in these programs that I was working in, part of our work was helping with that transition to full day kindergarten. What the program is open for any child under 6, but here in Ontario, they can go to kindergarten starting at age 4. So there, a lot of families, have a bit of anxiety. They've got a lot of questions surrounding it. So we do things like invite kindergarten teachers to come in to do a Q&A session where we talk about how to, what to expect. And one of the things that I really like to emphasize was the social and emotional learning piece of it, because I really do believe those skills like taking turns and sharing, making friends, learning about your emotions and being able to recognize them and figure out how to deal with them. And that was so important, not just for a child's success in school, but in life, really. So, I kind of brought in a lot of materials and we did sort of workshops and, coffee chats around the snack table in our program about this. And then at the same time, I was already volunteering with another podcast, a stories podcast, Story Time. And I sort of pitched this idea to the producer saying, hey, what if we did sort of a podcast for children that taught those social emotional skills, but also through mindfulness, because they're just so interconnected with yoga movement. And that's sort of how that all started.
Very cool. So that brings us kind of the podcast world, because you were
Mhm.
working with a podcast and then
Yes.
you ventured out on your own, right?
Yes.
Which, right? How was that learning curve?
It's steep. It was pretty steep for me. I don't know how you felt when you started this one. I didn't know too much about podcasts. I only learned about them because we're just looking for a story podcast for children during bedtime. We found one. We love story time still with Bedtime FM and the great team there. But it was great. I guess it was sort of a nice introduction, because when I joined, I was helping with things like researching stories that we could use. I would narrate some stories. So I got to kind of learn a little bit behind the scenes with someone who's more experienced, even things like posting and that sort of thing. And then this season, I started to produce this entirely independently, which is exciting, but it was also scary because I was the one responsible for things like making sure that the feeds were updated and the website hosting and all those little behind the scene things that, I didn't think about as a podcast listener, but I don't know. I guess you could probably relate. I don't know if you have a team behind you or if you're kind of doing it on. Yep. So it's work, but it's exciting to see the end product and see that a finished episode out and people writing in to say that they've enjoyed it or it helped them in some way. So it's a fun work, I'd have to say.
It is fun work, and I get to do things like meet you and highlight work that's being done, and so that for me is the reward. Like you say, do you have a team behind you? I'm like, no, it's me. Hi. I'm chief dog walker and social media
Yep.
expert and host, right? All these,
Absolutely.
big time podcasts that have a whole team, brought to you by so and so producer and editor and all this. I'm like, yeah, okay, great. It's like, no, you get it raw and rough and very real from the Yoga in My School podcast. So, whatever.
Yeah.
We all
I,
bring
yeah,
different things
I
to the community.
yeah. I think it's sort of like there's like a certain charm and it's so nice. It's very grassroots and you're like kind of getting it from the source and sort of, on the field. This is what's happening right now. Yeah. So I think that's great.
Exactly. Okay. Can you tell us or tell our listeners, maybe some of them are thinking, oh, maybe I want to do a podcast. Is that even possible? So what is kind of one of your biggest hurdles or challenges that you've had to overcome? And what is one of the
Mhm.
greatest rewards of of your podcast world?
Well, I think that one of the hurdles I found this season, I guess not only because I was doing it on my own, when I started, and see my daughter's here, that's with me. It's finding the time, being at home. When I started, I was working part-time. And again, I was working with somebody who's very experienced. And then this season, I found now I'm working full-time. I'm doing everything on my own. So I no longer had I couldn't really say once the kids are in bed, I can have this lovely couple hours to myself. I just found that there's so many other things to do, or there's some nights where I just want to rest and just not do anything. So it was really finding the time. But what I found that helped this season was just making myself a schedule and trying to really stick to it, because I do have a sound editor that I work with that does a finished product. So that kind of kept me accountable, because for me personally, I don't like making someone else wait or sort of delaying someone's work. So that kind of gave me that push. So that helped. And for your other part, the second part of the question, the rewards, again, I think it's just connecting with the listeners. So mine are children. So a lot of them, the older ones they'll write in, from their parents' emails, or sometimes we'll have live events. Like we have one coming up, and they'll get to talk to me or they'll leave reviews, I guess, on their parents' phone or their tablet. So it's really nice just to hear messages from them about how it's helped them through a tough time. If their parents were separating or they experienced a level of anxiety and they found the podcast helpful. So to me, I think that's why I'm doing it. I think that's why we all sort of work with children in that way.
Yeah, that's really neat. Actually, I've listened to a number of your episodes, and I love when like so-and-so in such and such a place, and they write in and then you read their comment. And I'm like, oh, that's so adorable. Oh my goodness. Like, it's so cute that they wrote in.
Yeah.
Talking about how your
it's
podcast has helped them get to sleep, or with a test at school, and so many things. And I'm sure that is extremely gratifying for you to get that feedback. So
it really
if you're
is.
listening to a podcast and something rings true for you, please write to the people who are producing it and making it, because it totally makes their day. It's the whole reason we do this.
It really does, because sometimes I'll tell them it means a lot that you took the time to write, because I mean, again, because when you're making it, I'm sitting alone in my bedroom in the middle of the night doing this. I don't know who's listened, or maybe they've listened, but I don't know if they've liked it. So it really does make a huge difference. Just to hear back any sort of feedback is appreciated.
I so understand. It's like, hello, anybody out there? Like you sometimes feel like I say, you're producing it in your home and kind of on your downtime, and it's a labor of love. And
Yes.
you're like, I'm hoping somebody's out there listening and it's meaningful and good content and all that kind of stuff. So feedback is good.
Yes.
All right. Now you do a really interesting, especially this season. You've done a really cool thing. I must admit, I was very impressed, because you are taking science and combining it with mindfulness. And as a educator, as a teacher, as soon as you start ticking numerous boxes in the curriculum and with outcomes, my ears start to perk up. I'm like, oh my goodness, she's not just doing mindfulness and health and SEL, right? Social emotional learning and all those kind of things. So tick, tick, tick. Then now you've bridged over into this science curriculum, and you have done all things all associated with the ocean and ocean animals and seaweed, and all kinds of fun things. What inspired you? Like that, nobody else is doing that. So where did you get the inspiration to combine those two things?
Well, and it's funny that you say that, because sometimes when people ask me to describe what peace out is, I kind of have trouble. It's mindfulness, but then we talk about emotions, but we talk about constellations. So it's sort of hard in that way. But I think it's really, again, just going back to being an educator and following the child. It's just you want to sort of follow their interests and kind of meet them where they're at. So we do episodes. We've done a whole rhyming one about unicorns. I did a season all about space. So each episode, one was about comets or the northern lights. And as you said, this season is all about the ocean. So we talked about, and I tried to sort of research different animals. So we know a lot about dolphins and whales and octopus, but we sort of talked about a peacock mantis shrimp, the common murre, kelp forest, like something a little bit different, because I think children, especially if once you kind of grasp onto something like dinosaurs, we all know children who love dinosaurs, they know how to pronounce all the names that we don't or we've forgotten. So I just thought it'd be kind of fun to introduce maybe lesser known sea creatures. And that, I guess, hopefully catches their interest. And as we do kind of go through these fun facts, we pair each fun fact with a mindfulness exercise, a breathing exercise, a little bit of yoga movement. And yeah, so I just hope it helps draw them in and keep them interested.
Yeah, I really liked it. I like how deep you went. Like you said, you found unique animals in the sea. You went like, it wasn't just as a kids yoga teacher, it's like, yeah, we're going to go visit, go to outer space for one lesson, and you did an entire season, like episode after episode after. I'm like, holy crow, this girl likes space. Like, oh and I can see how you're really tapping into the kids who that's their thing, right? If that's their thing, then they know more than you do. And so you're taking it like that one step deeper, and then you're going to just draw those individuals in. And if it's not your thing, you're still going to be amazed, because you just learned so much about comets and all these things. It's like, wow, okay. Like I listened to your one on the kelp forest, and I was like, I just learned so much about kelp forest. I've scuba dived in kelp forest, and I didn't know all this about kelp forest.
Well, that's a great thing too, because I feel that I learned so much. I think every single episode I learned at least one or two things that I had no idea about. So it's exciting for me too. And I don't know, hopefully the children pick up on that I'm excited to learn about kelp forests, and that we may have eaten kelp today because it's in our toothpaste and in our ice cream. I didn't know that, actually. So it's fun for everyone, I think. So I think that kind of adds that sort of positive energy of growing together, learning together.
Very cool. All right. Another thing that you've done this season is you've had this word. Right? It's a whole series, and every episode you've given everybody a word, and they have to keep listening and finding all the words to make a sentence.
Yes.
Right.
We called it our Ocean Code Word Challenge. It's something I've never done before. This is my 5th season. We started in 2017, so it's been a few years, but I just sort of thought I'd like to add something fun, because I had been away for about a year. Usually I'll do a season, and that it's sort of almost like follows a school year, then the summer's off, and then the next season. But just because when the pandemic started, I just found that I just couldn't divide my attention that much anymore, especially if my kids were home. I need to be there for them. So I just had to let that part go. And even though I would get, some emails here and there just asking where it is, and I had that fear of, oh, I'm going to lose these listeners, these people these children who kind of followed for a couple of years, I'm going to lose them, which I don't know, maybe it's time. But I just thought right now I can't dedicate more time to this. So I took a long break. So coming back, I really wanted to make it special. So this code word challenge is, again, we've got 10 ocean episodes. We've kind of done some one-offs here and there, but the ocean themed episodes, I hid a word, really. I told them the word, and they're writing them down. And at the end, when you have all 10 words, they can unscramble it with their families, or if they're listening with their class, and it should make up, hopefully, a sentence about protecting our oceans. And I'm having them enter, and all the correct sentences will be entered for a draw. And we're going to do a giveaway where with the World Wildlife Foundation, you can adopt an animal, and then you get the stuffed animal. So that's going to be the prize, because it kind of goes with our ocean theme. So I'm hoping it's fun, something different. It's something that's a podcast friendly kind of treasure hunt. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it turns out well when we do the draw.
Yeah, I really liked it. You made it in a little bit of a game, and rewarding people who are loyal listeners, and encouraging people, if they've missed an episode, to go back. I thought it was quite brilliant, actually. I was like, dang, this girl is good. Right? And so to do all of this, you're having a special event, right?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us about January 22nd.
Yeah, so it's on Saturday, January 22nd. I actually had initially I only had one session, but because again, you'll know too with podcasts, it's your listeners aren't local, or they're not always local to you. You've got listeners in different countries, at which we do. We have listeners from, I think, at least 5 continents. So that's really amazing. So I have 2 sessions on that day. One's at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time in the morning, and one at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's on Zoom. You can register at our website, which is peaceoutpodcast.com. And then during that, we're going to build a relaxation story together. So I've done in the past where I've prepared slides or Zoom polls, and they can kind of choose, where do we go next, or which animal should we do? Should we pretend to be next? And then we'll do the draw during those sessions and give out the prize.
Fantastic. It sounds so much fun. Okay. So if listeners here are interested, how do they get involved by registering, right, at the Peace Out podcast for the live events. Ideally, they'll go back and listen to the 10 episodes, right? So you don't have to listen to every episode. You just have to listen to the ocean episodes.
Yeah, and I think they've numbered them, so they should show up. And our last one will be released on the 17th, so about a week right before. So they have that sort of week to enter, and all the information is on the website. So that's where, if people are interested to go, please go there to check it out.
Fantastic. So if you've got a kid who loves the ocean, you want to get involved, please do. I think it's just so much fun doing a live event and making sure, like, you've obviously put a lot of time and effort and thought into this whole event, and so kudos to you. I just love it.
Oh, thank you, Donna. Yeah, I hopefully, as long as the listeners, the children enjoy it, it'll be fun. I think it'll be fun.
Well, good. All right. So once you're done with that, I'm anticipating you're going to take a break. It's like, okay, like all of that, like that's a lot of work to put that all together and to host 2 live things on, like, that's your weekend. And so, but what is coming up in the next season for the Peace Out podcast?
Well, that's to be determined. Usually, all the episodes, the themes, that sort of thing is just generated by what people are interested in. So sometimes listeners will email and just say, oh, could you help write a story about this? Or could you do something? So, I'll take all those ideas. Sometimes we'll pull, like, our Patreons who support me on Patreon, and we'll have polls there. And then based on that, I'll choose something to go with the next theme. So I'm not sure yet. We've done space, we've done oceans now, we did a treasure hunt. We did a season where season 2, we followed a red panda and a snow leopard through the Himalaya mountains. And it was sort of an ongoing narrative each season. So I'm not sure. I guess you'll have to listen to find out about what's next.
To find out, or become a Patreon. And if you've got an opinion, send that in, and you too can influence the podcast world.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but it's definitely a break, and then just kind of rest and re-energize myself to do the next season.
Fantastic. Well, good for you. I like I said, I was very, very impressed, and I wanted everyone to know about you and your work that you're doing and the joy that you're bringing to people's lives. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Donna. It's so nice to meet you and be here. And I'm just so excited because I feel like I've learned a lot from you and following you and the way you speak to children and about it and introducing yoga to children. It's very different teaching adults between teaching adults versus teaching children. So I've always sort of admired the approach you took, which is really kind and friendly, warm and welcoming. So I'm really happy to have the chance to meet you and talk to you.
Fantastic. This is why we do this, people. So we can increase our world and find amazing, incredible individuals who are doing great work.
Absolutely.
All right. Where can people find? Okay, so you get the peaceoutpodcast.com website, but what are your handles on Facebook and Instagram and all the other social things that people can follow you at?
So we have an Instagram, a Twitter, and a Facebook page. I did the thing you're not supposed to do, and the handles don't match. So on Twitter, it's at Peace Out Podcast, and on Instagram and Facebook, I believe they're both at Peace Out Stories. Yeah, but again,
sometimes something's taken. You do the best you can, right?
That's right. But again, go to the website, and then you can find everything there. That might be the easiest thing to do.
Fantastic. Well, Chanel, it has been a delight spending a half hour chatting with you this evening.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so great. And it's for everything you do. And I'm excited to see what you're doing next too with Yoga in My Schools.
Yeah, it's always a little bit new. Actually, I found a couple more people on social media today that I was like, ooh, this looks fun. So I was sending messages to more people today. Like my list just keeps growing of potential guests. So I love it. It's
That's
fun.
great. And you're building that community. I mean, we talked about we're podcasting by ourselves, but you know, when you're connecting with other podcasters and people doing the same thing, then we're not really alone. We're here to support each other. So thanks for building that community for everyone, Donna.
Fantastic. Well, keep up the great work and all the best
Yeah.
with your January 22nd event.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Donna.
Everybody, thank you for listening. This has been the Yoga in My School podcast, where we talk about all things kids, youth, yoga, mindfulness, the amazing work that people are doing around the globe to make our lives better, make children's lives better, and provide adults with the tools to be able to do that well. And so thank you for listening. And until next time, take care.